We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello again, DJ Hilson, and we're yet another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. And today's guest, I'm really excited about because it happens to coincide with the climate that we're currently under, even though the Road Commission works 24/7 in all seasons. Today, my guest is Andrew Nichols, maintenance supervisor, I think is the correct title. Is that
maintenance
right?
Superintendent. You're close,
Superintendent.
DJ.
Gosh darn it all.
I gotcha.
I got to study more next time. But Drew, thanks for being with me today. These podcasts are really important because it I think helps educate. Well, the goal is to educate not only Muskegon County residents, but hopefully a nationwide audience as to how important the jobs are that we're talking about. And today, it's extremely important. Roads are everywhere. They are the main lifeline for a lot of things. And I think people, one, don't understand, but more importantly, probably take for granted what the Road Commission does. So before we get into the weeds, if you will, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So as stated, my name's Andrew Nichols. Everyone calls me Drew. I started at the Road Commission in 2013 as an engineering technician. Before that, gosh, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So in high school, I started working for Fruitport Fire Department as a co-op. Really wanted to be a firefighter. Did that for a couple of years, went to school, became an EMT basic, moved over to Grand Haven Public Safety, and I was actually a firefighter there for several years while I was in college. I went to college at Ferris State University. Still unsure where I wanted to go, so I ended up getting 2 associate degrees, one in civil construction, one in building construction. When I left there, I'm like, well, now what? So I became a fly fishing guide in Durango, Colorado for a year.
Why not?
I said, why not?
Why not?
It seemed cool, but tell you what, it wasn't. So I came back home to Michigan, worked for a local testing firm, Soils and Structures. Saw an article for an opening at the Road Commission. I said, you know what, this is my time. Applied there, started as engineering technician. 3 years after that, I became the traffic safety supervisor for the Road Commission. Then I went back to the engineering department as the engineering coordinator. And then a couple of years after that, I moved back down to maintenance superintendent, which is really I'm in charge of operations for all 3 garages we have.
Let's start there. 3 garages. What are in the 3 garages?
So the Apple Avenue location is our headquarters. That's where we staff our administration office, engineering department, our mechanics department, and then a large part of our facility fleet. Twin Lake Garage is up on M120. That's one of our satellite garages, less employees, but strategically placed to get some good coverage. And then our third facility is on Whitehall Road up in Whitehall, Michigan. And it's the same thing. It's a smaller facility, but if I had to send a truck from Muskegon to go plow up in White River Township, it'd take them about an hour. Yeah,
okay. So in some respects, and you've just educated me. So
you're welcome.
Already,
that's why I'm here.
Already you're batting 1,000. But in some respects, and it's interesting how it coincides with some of your fire department training in some of the larger jurisdictions, fire departments strategically locate what I'll say fire barns so they can respond quicker in a quick fashion as opposed to, like you said, taking an hour to get here. I'm assuming that's some of the same sort of philosophy as it relates to the Road Commission.
We're no different. We're first responders. If you need us, we're coming. We'll come running. That's why we have 3 different garages so we can get there in a timely manner. Our objective is keeping the roads clear and as safe as possible. Fire trucks have to get to a fire. They have to get to that heart attack call, any of that. So if the roads aren't clear by us, we're going to have some issues. That's, we're pretty important too.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, so let's talk about some logistics here. The number of employees currently for the Road Commission.
Total staffing is about 84, 85. We try to keep our trucking staff to about 25 at Muskegon and then 10 at the 2 outside facilities, so 55 truck drivers. They are designated as road technicians. In the winter, they're a truck driver, but in the summer, they're repairing roads, building bridges. There's nothing we can't do. Up front in the administration building, that's where we have our engineering department, as I stated earlier. We've got department heads up there, 4 engineering technicians. They're generally in charge of federal aid projects. I can go into that probably later.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be one of the questions, but there's a lot of ways we get the funding. I'm sure we'll get to there. But they primarily focus on some of the bigger jobs where there's a lot of money. It's federally funded. There's lots of paperwork involved. Then on the other side of that office is our administrative area. Obviously, we have to have a finance department, HR, clerk, secretary, front desk that does a lot of the dispatching and takes care of the service requests and sends those to the appropriate locations. And then we got to keep trucks rolling. So we have our own mechanics department out back, and truck goes down, comes there, fix it, get back right on the road.
So it's really sort of one-stop shopping. Now, if memory serves me correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is a governing board, the Road Commission Board, correct? Yep. Talk a little bit about that.
So they're appointed down by the county. They come and we propose items to them, board requests that they need to vote on to get approved. If it's budgetarily, that's generally what it is. So bid items, future projects, improvements to facilities, equipment purchases. It all needs to be at that platform once a month, get voted on, so it's all through the proper process.
Sort of in a nutshell, the budget, yearly budget. Typical road commission budget for the year.
It's a lot.
I can imagine.
I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe last time I looked, it was around $24 million.
Okay.
A lot of that comes from different resources. There's the general notes on it. There's a big pie chart. Everyone gets a slice of the pie. Most of the funding comes from gas taxes. So you go pay for gas at the pump. Those taxes go to Lansing, get distributed amongst other road commission agencies, and even down to municipality levels like cities and villages. You go pay for your registration, same thing. Portion of that goes to that. I know there's talk about marijuana taxes. There's a lot of ways to get the money. Some of our concerns, it's very important to have low impact vehicles. So vehicles that get really good gas mileage. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Traverse City and put 5 gallons of gas in their car?
Right.
But you're getting less user value for the taxes that come back to roads. So you try to incorporate different ideas, different ways to get the funding. I buy gas and I don't notice the taxes, but I notice new roads getting improved. So if we lose that, you're going to lose the funding on roads, and that's where it all comes from. And a lot of the public doesn't quite understand that.
Well, and I think this was a conversation happening in Lansing last year, to your point, electric vehicles, right? And whether or not they should be made to pay their fair share because they're not paying gas taxes, right? And I don't know if you've been involved in those conversations or. Yeah,
we're following them. They're still obviously in process. There's a county road association that we're all a member of as road commission agency. I'm sure you're familiar with them. Yep. So they're doing the work for us and keeping us in the loop. We're following it. It's just, how are you going to do it properly? No one wants to. No one wants to pay a tax. I don't blame the public, but those roads are not going to get repaired if we don't get the funding. And they're not cheap. They're getting more and more expensive. When I started in 2013, I think asphalt prices per ton were $50 to $60 per ton. And now your average MDOT price for the federal aid lettings is about $100 a ton. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
I mean, you're doubling the cost on our infrastructure that everyone has to use every single day.
All right, so let's talk about the reach of the road commission. Obviously there are the main thoroughfares here through Muskegon County, a lot of different arteries, neighborhoods. So let's talk about the reach. And then sort of the secondary question of that is, how do you partner with the townships and the cities that have their own sort of, I'll say, road commission services?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can get a little muddy, a little gray, a little confusing. So every municipality covers their own area. we're not the Muskegon County Road Commission of City of Muskegon.
Gotcha.
They are their own jurisdiction. They receive their own funding. I don't know how they pull taxes, but I'm assuming they pull taxes from property owners. We don't pull property taxes from owners. So at our level, we perform maintenance activities on MDOT, their trunk line, which would be US 31, M46, M37, M120. I don't own those roads. The Road Commission doesn't. We have a signed contract agreement with MDOT to perform maintenance on those. So when you see our trucks on those highways, that's our agreement to perform that work. Other areas like Ionia, they have their own MDOT facility that performs their own maintenance. It doesn't work like that here, and it's actually beneficial to us. We can get a lot more done, get a little more funding to perform such projects. So you'll see us out doing guardrail, signs, stuff like that. The paving projects, that's out of our realm, that goes right back to MDOT. So if you want to take that down another notch, our next level of service is primary roads. Primary roads, if you live in Muskegon County, you're listening, it's going to be like a Heights-Urbana, Maple Island, Whitehall Road. Those ones are deemed primary roads due to the amount of traffic volume and what they serve. Those ones are 100% funded by the Road Commission. So the funding we get, as I spoke earlier, MTF funding, maintenance transportation funds, those are the funds we receive from the gas taxes, all that stuff. When we go to resurface a project on a primary road, so new asphalt, a chip seal, a culvert failure, we pay for that 100% out of our pocket. We're not asking for help. So it can get frustrating when you see Far Road, some of the other ones over in Fruitport.
Pick a road in Muskegon Heights.
And they're in rough shape.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes, and I'm not going to speak for Muskegon Township, or Muskegon Heights, excuse me. A lot of it comes down to how they set up their taxes and their funding. We all receive the federal aid funds, but you have to have a way to match it even. Our Fed aid projects we get for the engineering department, we might have to match 15% of a project that costs $2 million. Well, 15%, if you don't have the money in your pocket,
right,
it's a lot of money and you can't execute it. So when we go from the primary roads, then we jump down to the local roads. Those ones we have a cost share with the townships. So there was a law that passed in 1951, it's called Act 51, that shows the partnership with the townships and how to properly spend the money. Cliff Notes version is, it's a split on certain projects. So if it's a through road, again, if someone's listening, they live in Muskegon County, a McMillan Road or a Bard Road, those are local roads, and that township is going to split that participation with us. When they get their funding, we don't know how they got it.
Gotcha.
It's from taxes that you paid for in your township, whether they use it for roads or a park that's voted on at a township meeting.
Right.
So obviously we want to push to, let's get some assistance. Let's work together and get these projects done. So that's our job at the kind of the level I'm at, or my managing director, is working with the townships and let's collaborate projects. What's really needed? What can we do now for a safe cost investment where 10 years down the road it's going to cost 10 times the amount because we have to fully rebuild it. Everything has a level of service to us, and that's what's so frustrating sometimes. If I could rebuild all the roads like I would like to, I would do it in a heartbeat, but I have to have that partnership with townships. So with that, those are the townships in the county. When you start bumping into like the villages and cities, they have their own municipality. Like I stated with City of Muskegon. Norton Shore is the same way. And it gets a little confusing to the public sometimes. Daily we'll get service requests. And I've lived here almost my whole life.
Yeah.
So when I hear a service request for a pothole on Wood Street, I know it's not mine. We don't have a Wood Street. Trying to explain it to the resident sometimes, and I feel for them, and everyone wants something done. It's just there's a right way to do it when you're dealing with the government.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think to your point, obviously, people when roads, I'm going to look up road. How do I get my road fixed? Well, I'm sure the road commission pops up, right? And so it would naturally be the first stop, right? I guess part of our conversation today is to hopefully answer some of those questions, that there are certain roads that belong to the road commission, but there are a lot of roads that you're working in partnership because they don't necessarily belong to the road commission, but you want to be a strong partner.
Oh, absolutely. Not toot my own horn,
That's
DJ,
okay.
but
Go ahead.
I love it when residents do call and I can walk away knowing that they have the right answer. That's how I grew up, and that's how I learned. So in my mind, if they go back and have a couple of beers with their buddies and they're chatting about that night, hey, I learned this at the road commission, that's a win-win for me.
Absolutely.
Too. I just don't like the confusion. And people are more than welcome. They call me all the time. Drew at the road commission, like you said, you deal with roads. I will always send you in the right direction. Just my experience here and my good relationships with everyone. I know who to call, and I'm very proud of that.
Good. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it was, it was funny. In fact, it was today talking to someone about gas tax and how it trickles and where the money goes and how that fits within the road, road budgets and all that kind of stuff. And it is very complicated. I mean, it's not an easy funding system, if you will, to get a lot of these things accomplished. And so let's talk a little bit about how you touched a little bit on it, and when you have to look towards the federal government or when I guess you're called upon to assist the federal government in what capacity? How does that work?
So with the federal funding, I like the word cliff notes because I'm going to give you more cliff notes.
That's fine. Perfect.
So our engineering department does a fantastic job at getting the federal aid and the grants. They spend a lot of time applying for them. So I don't want to speak out of tone because a lot of it I just don't know, and it's way over my head. They are professional engineers. They are licensed to practice their engineering. So what they do is there's certain deadlines, so they need to obligate projects. So there will be a pocket of money with the federal aid through MDOT, and certain dollar amounts are available. So they even have to obligate projects out to 2028, 2029.
Okay. Wow.
So we kind of have this, and I came from the engineering department, so it's kind of funny. And one of my good friends is the highway engineer over there. And he and I always go back and forth because he'll obligate federal aid projects all the way out to like 2029. And I come up with my list because I'm using my MTF funds to reduce the projects. I'm like, man, I was going to do that one, but we're all in the same boat together. Yeah. And they do a fantastic job because a lot of their federal aid projects are, say, 10 or 15% funded by us. There's a lot of stipulations on them with paperwork and inspections and stuff like that. And we follow the rules out in the maintenance department too as well. But they've really, when you're spending federal money, there's a lot of thumbs pushing down on you, and they do an excellent job in that department. So they're constantly applying for grants, these federal funds. How Paul and Scott find them, I have no idea. They just always are going, hey, we got a fish grant passage fund. Would you like to do that? I'm like, sure, where at? And they just pop up with it out of thin air in my mind, but they've probably been looking at it for months. Yeah. So a lot of their projects, they'll get lined up and go, here, Drew, you ready? I'm like, yeah. So a lot of stuff they get us is, it's fun for us. Some of the projects we've gotten with Wimserdick, which is our local road rating people, the National Fisheries Department. We get these cool grants that I'm an outdoorsman. I was a fly fishing guide. Yeah. So we get to put a new culvert in for brook trout so they can go spawn upstream. I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
We get to do it. So we get on this project. I'm chatting with the crew. I'm like, you know how impactful this is. This is awesome.
That's awesome. I mean, and again, I think it goes to show that the road commission is certainly road. I mean, road's in the title, so roads are an important thing, but it's more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything to do with roads, whether like you said, bridge, culverts, things that again people will drive over and not even bat an eye about, but it has some connection to the road commission, especially when it comes to either construction and or maintenance.
There's 13,000 culverts in the county. And how many do we drive over on the way over here? I don't know. A lot. That's infrastructure. That's going to cost something at some point in time. So trying to budget those and watch out for the problem areas before it becomes a problem. It's a daunting piece of work to just manage all that. We have a lot of resources with technology nowadays, which makes it easier. But if you think of what's under the ground, I mean, before I started in this industry, I'm like, oh, whatever, it's just earth.
Yeah.
No, there's utilities, there's power lines, there's cable lines. And our department up in the engineering department permits all that. Anything that's put in our right of way is approved upon by the permit department. We don't just willy-nilly say, go redo your own driveway culvert. We don't care how it turns out, or go ahead and bore this line through our road. No, it's not like that.
Well, again, and that's a nice check and balance too, right? And that way you at least know that it's being done appropriately, properly, and it's taking into account the other things that are under the ground.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of times, and I did permits when I was up there. Kind of the joy of my career at the road commission is moving around everywhere. Mm-hmm. I'm not perfect in everything, but I know enough to be dangerous. So I worked in the permits department, and working with the engineering department, they'd have a project obligated for 2029, and I'd instantly red flag saying, I just got a utility permit for a new gas line, but we're going to do this in 2029. So then we collaborate together and say, hey, let's put it this far out so it's not a problem when we do the projects. We're saving costs. So it takes the right people and the right team, and we have the right team. Just a lot of the cool stuff like that you're never going to see on the outside.
Right.
You're going to see the orange truck going down the highway.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about, because what I'm always interested in, and I've known a couple of truck drivers in my time here in Muskegon County, in particular, wintertime, and I don't know if it's equal, summer and winter being the same, or is winter more hectic than summer? I mean, let's start there. How would you classify?
DJ, it's all hectic.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Coming from the outside world into the road commission, there's never a slow day. There's always something to do. So obviously in the wintertime, they're in their trucks driving around, getting snow off the road. That's our major objective, whether we're putting material down to burn off salt pad or ice pack, or we're just pushing the snow and clearing for extra snow. Like this morning, I had a schedule set up for our Twin Lake garage the night before. I'm like, all right, I'm good. When I get to the garage, we're going to be all set. It snowed overnight. Throw that thing in the garbage, rebuild your schedule. Like you said earlier, in the wintertime, we're staffed 24/7, so a night supervisor called in the appropriate amount of crew to take care of that event that we had last night. It's Michigan. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, so how does that work? Obviously, you've indicated, and maybe you can expand on that a little bit, that every day there's a set plan of what the schedule of events are going to be for the commission or the workers that day.
Yep.
But it has to pivot.
It has to pivot.
Because Mother Nature pivots. So, for example, as we're recording this, in about 24 hours, there's a prediction of a pretty heavy snowfall from Wednesday night into Thursday morning. How do you guys prepare for that?
Our job at the road commission as supervisors and myself as superintendent is pre-planning. You always have to have a backup plan and look at the future. So, for an example, this morning, what their original orders were going to be is it's a whiteboard that's had a whole bunch of stuff that we've gathered through the season that this needs to get done, and you prioritize it. Obviously, snow removal is a high priority, so that supersedes that, and we jump into that. When we're getting into this event that's going to happen tomorrow, unfortunately, we're pre-planning. So I've been looking at the weather data for 3 days, and yesterday it looked really bad, and then this morning it looked a lot better because it's Michigan and everything's changing. So it does change how we're going to perform or act, depending on what kind of snow, what time it comes in. We know that, I have kids in school. I don't want school clothes. It's inconvenient to me.
Right.
I need to be at work, and my wife needs to be at work.
Right.
So we accommodate for that. We get trucks in earlier than school's going to start. We try to get everything cleared up as best we can. We know that there's going to be high traffic volume on US 31. Everyone's got to go to work. So that's when we look at the event. When's it going to start? When's it going to end? When's the heavy precipitation going to be there? What are the temps? What's the wind doing? Are we going to have drifting? Are we going to be able to use salt? Is it going to be 50-50 only? It's a giant science project. And I'm blessed that we have a good relationship with NOAA and the National Weather Service. I can call them and say, hey, how much cloud cover are we going to have tomorrow? Can I use salt? And they say, hey, at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., you're going to have 75% cloud cover. Well, I guess we're not going to chance putting salt down until we get the sun poking through. So, yeah, it's all pre-planning. It's not a perfect world, but I feel like we do a pretty good job at it. With our staffing, I feel like I'm going around. I try to stay on top.
No, it's all right.
If I talk too much, you got to shut me down too.
You're
DJ.
good. You're good. You're good.
So with our staffing, in the winter, we have a night shift and a day shift. And our night shift consists of a supervisor that's on call from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and then vice versa for the day shift. Our night shift it's a tight crew. There's 4 truck drivers, road technicians at Muskegon, and then 1 at each outside facility.
Okay.
That's, the perception with the public sometimes is, where's the road commission? It's snowing. Well, all my truck drivers just work 16 hours. And the federal aid standards are 16 hours in your truck max, and you got to have 8 out before you can get back in your truck again. So when there's 6 truck drivers on the highway overnight, they're doing the best they can to hold that trunk line, which is MDOT's, the highest traffic volume, hold that decent or as best they can until we can get night shift back in. So that's when we'll do like a 2 a.m. call for the day shift, come in extra early, relieve the night shift. It's just, feel bad for these trucks. I mean,
yeah, well, listen,
you get a bad storm and it's not turning off.
Well, and that's the thing. And I got to believe, as you talk about this science experiment, which I find fascinating, by the way, I think that's really cool. There's probably a system as to when, like you said, when you start and when you stop it, when you start up again, because again, with the limited number of drivers, you have to get the most bang for your buck when the guys and gals are out there. And so can you talk a little bit, is there a metric, if you will, as to, okay, snow's going to start here. That means we're going to start plowing at this time, and then we're going to gauge, an hour later, we're going to see where we're at and maybe stop or maybe continue.
There are metrics, and I'll go into that with the material usage too.
Okay.
We're blessed right now, and I do want to say too, I'm not a truck driver. I'm sitting at my desk. Those truck drivers are doing all the work, so I want to give them all the credit.
100%, 100%.
They're out there doing it. I'm not driving around for 16 hours on a highway looking at snowflakes where you're starting to get blinded. You have cars sliding off in front of you. It's dangerous, and it's more dangerous than it was several years ago with the phones and the drugs and it's a scary world, and they're right in the middle of it on that highway, and even in the internal roads. But we're blessed to be fully staffed most years. So on a normal work week, I have trucks from the state highway all the way down to a subdivision, and the subdivision might get 20 cars a day. We're capable of providing that service during a normal work week, it's pretty uncommon, and like I said, we're blessed to have that. So I hope the public sees that that we do provide that. So anyways, with that, when we look at the snow and what's going to happen, yes, we need to process how much our trucks are going to have to be on certain runs. So when you have an event that happens on the weekend and it's done snowing by 10 a.m., those state truck drivers will sometimes finish up like that. The traffic generation will meal in that salt and it'll burn it off even quicker, depending on the temps. Again, a science experiment, DJ.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they'll accomplish their assignment, and now they'll come in county and split the load with everyone else. So if they can get caught up on the highway, they'll come in and we can just splatter through all these roads, get everything cleared out, and everyone can go home and get some sleep and get ready for the next day. Does that answer that portion?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I think, again, it shows some of the collaboration between MDOT and the local road commission, right? Because, if they can lend assistance, they're rolling in to help, clear the roads as quickly as possible.
And we are, my truck doesn't say MDOT on it, but we are MDOT in Muskegon County.
Okay.
We're contracted for them. I have a great relationship with our local MDOT team. They're out of the Muskegon TSC over by Black Creek. They put it in our hands. They trust us.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. This is our job. They allow us to make the decisions. We just communicate with them. Something people don't see is all the communication we have with other road commission agencies. So every time we have a storm, I'm on the phone with my buddy Mike Breggy, who's a superintendent at Newaygo, Jeff Balcom up at Oceana, Ken Hildebrandt in Ottawa, Steve Roon over in Kent County. We get a mass group text, and it's 3 a.m. We're texting each other. Hey, are you applying? Are you doing 50-50, 75-25? What are you doing? We're all trying to partner together. What we don't want to see is that transition between the counties. You've been out there.
Yeah.
You hit that Oceana line or you hit that Kent County line, and man, it turned to crap. Well, we don't want that.
Right.
But we also want to use our resources effectively. We don't want to just... The most frustrating part is, where does the salt go? It disappears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I didn't have to use it, that'd be great.
Right,
but I think we just we give a certain service and then it's expected of us. I know you go to some northern road commission areas and you don't get stuck. You got 4-wheel drive, but you're just used to that, I think. So it's tough. That's frustrating to me is, man, that salt's all just disappearing.
Yeah.
There's a lot and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So we try our best to use it as minimal as we can, try to save those costs. Those costs do get allocated back to state and then redispersed. So it's not like I save $1 million, I get $1 million. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did. It'd be cool, but it gets back to the MDOT system in Lansing and gets redispersed out elsewhere.
So, all right, now let's talk about summer activities. Again, the road commission doesn't get a summer break. What are you guys focused in on in the spring and summer when the snow is not typically an issue?
That's a perfect question. So once you get a couple of years in, you can see the picture of what's going to happen. So winter, snow removals. If it's not snow, we're doing trees. Usually ground's frozen. If it's not, we're doing ditching. In the spring, we start getting ready for some of those summer projects. So that's when you'll see us doing tree removals in advance of a paving project or chip seal project or a bridge project. We do a lot of work with the engineering department for federal aid projects. What do you need done before the project starts? That's when we do some tree removals. So spring is kind of, let's go outside a little bit. Let's get some fresh air. So you're starting to get ready for those summer projects. My supervisors and staff are preparing for big projects. That's when we're starting to crunch numbers. We start doing it in the winter, but it's hard measuring some roads, obviously, when it's covered in snow. So spring, we get really hot and heavy, measuring roads, working with townships, getting those projects ready. And then our crews will start getting assigned to pre-prep those roads. So again, I could see it from the public eye. So before I worked at the road commission, I'm like, what are they doing, man? They're throwing all this stone down. This sucks. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah. There is always a reason for what we're doing. And I love it when residents call and ask, why are you putting this tar and stone down on my road? It doesn't need it. Sometimes it does. We drive every single road with our own eyes. We use a program called RoadSoft that does road rating. We start with that, and it'll give you a 1 through 10. Where's your road sitting at? We print that out. We go drive the roads. We get our eyes on it. We're looking at cracks. What kind of cracks are they? Are they longitudinal? Are they going this way? Are they block cracking? Are there potholes? Yada, yada. Every type of repair or every type of damage requires a certain type of repair. So we might go out and Durapatch a road that has some potholing to get it back to where it needs to be before we go chip seal it. You might go on one road that has a couple potholes and some deformity where it's misshapen. That needs to be repaved. Then you go to the next road over. It's got great shape. It's got 2% crown. The water's leaving the road, but it's alligator cracked, but there's no potholes. Perfect one to chip seal. So every single road has a different recipe. And, sometimes it gets frustrating for the residents too is, what does it cost per mile to do a road? I don't know. Every single road's different.
Right.
Does this need 2 inches of asphalt, 1 inch, chip seal, Durapatching? Unless I look at it, every road is different. So a lot of their summer work is the chip seal program. Everyone dislikes it, but I will chat about how beneficial it is, because it is.
Listen,
don't be nice
to me. No,
DJ.
I'm not going to be. I mean, listen, So I live in Laketon Township.
Okay.
And Dykstra Road is one of the main thoroughfares for me. I mean, I travel it every day, back and forth, and that's been chip sealed many times. And I don't complain about it.
Well, thanks.
The science of it is amazing to me because it goes on like gravel, but then as a car, I mean, really, you're trusting the cars to kind of help put it all together, right? I mean, that's
somewhat. Yeah. I mean, they assist. We'll say that. They're assisting.
Well, yes, I feel like I'm part of the road
your
commission.
car is pretty nice, though, so stay out of that.
But yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about what's the obviously cost is a huge factor, right? I mean, and again, it goes back to the municipalities, the cities, the townships. What have they prioritized? Do they have the funding, and what can we afford?
Yeah. So my job and the director's job, it's bang for the buck. What is the perfect repair at the least amount of cost that's going to last a certain amount of time? That's why chip seal has gotten so popular. What it does, so the operation itself, we spray this emulsion, which is liquid asphalt, down on the road first. That's the glue. What the glue will do is impermeate all the cracks. Well, you have a crack that gets water in it in the winter. It's going to freeze, it's going to expand, it's going to create a pothole. We're trying to prevent that. So when you go and do that, you get an emulsion, it gets in the cracks, glues it together. Now you have a glue source for this stone that we're putting down. So when we put the stone down, we're rolling it in with our rollers. And then, yes, traffic does assist, but we can do it ourselves. So once they roll it in, that's the new wear course. That's the protective course between the emulsion and the old road.
Gotcha.
Depending on the road, you could get 7 years to 20 years. It depends on how much traffic. Are there huge dump trucks going across it? That's all stuff we try to take into effect too. So we've begun doing this. It's a new good practice all the road commissioners are doing on newly paved roads, which is the most frustrating. And I get it. I see it too. New paved road and you're putting stone on it. Yeah. That is our preventive measure.
Okay.
Every road in Michigan is going to crack. This isn't Florida where you don't have freeze thaws. You pave a road, it's going to crack. So what we're doing is chip sealing that brand new paved road before you see the crack. Then you have the summer, it's heating up, that emulsion's bleeding down into the crack that you can't see, and it's stopping the pothole before it forms. So chip seal's really, it's an awesome preventive maintenance. And it sucks paving on a brand new road, but it's so good for it. It gives you that much more life for the road. Well,
again, I mean, and that's really the goal, right? The goal is not to have to get the little asphalt truck and with the guys and the shovels and doing the pothole repair.
You're getting too far at that point.
Yeah,
it's too late.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, and some of that gets a little frustrating. I keep using the word frustrating. We might go fix this road that's getting paved. The road right next to it is a complete disaster. You can see gravel.
Yeah.
It got to that point. We chose to do this road because it's going to cost minuscule compared to that one. Let's keep that one in good shape so we don't have to get to this point. When we have funding for this one, we'll get it. But this one's going to be 10 times the amount of this one. So a lot of that, we get a lot of questions up in the engineering department. Why'd you pick that road? It's because we don't want to get to that point. Right now is the time to get it repaired so we don't have to reconstruct it.
Now, along with road maintenance, because, I know people obviously have experienced the chip seal, even though they may not know what it's called. They've experienced it, I guarantee it. How about the guys and gals that are tarring or spraying the cracks? What's that all about?
Yeah, it's overband or crack sealing. So same thing as a chip seal. You're trying to get, chip seal a little different. You're getting the wear course. The overband is sealing those cracks before you can get the water to impermeate. So some of the bigger roads that we know aren't going to get funding for construction anytime in the near future, that's our quick cure remedy to keep from potholing. Some roads, I mean, you've seen it, it's Muskegon County. There's some roads that look like they're chip sealed because they got so much overband on them. But that all serves a good process to the whole piece too for preventive maintenance. You can overlay on top of that. So even if we go crack seal it right now, you're buying time, and say we get the funding 3 years down the road, go ahead and overlay over top of it. It's not going to hurt it. You just bought yourself more time before you had to fully reconstruct. There's a reason for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it seems like it or not.
Well, and I'm assuming, too, that you are, like you said, as you're getting your eyes on roads, you're consulting with those communities, I'll say the leadership of those communities, whether it's township boards or city commissions, and saying, hey, look, just so you know, this is the grade, if you will, of this road right here versus the grade of this road right here, and allowing at least the leadership part of these various municipalities to start understanding and maybe setting priorities, maybe not for then, but for the future.
Oh, absolutely. We some townships, we do like a 5-year plan. We actually go through and come up with 5 years worth of work all spread out. This is how much it's going to cost. Let's budget for it. So then they can work on trying to budget for it. Some townships have a set amount that they budget every year, and we know what we can get done for each potential year. Some projects are super expensive. That's where it gets a little hairy for the townships, is the unknowns or the big super expensive ones. Not to go off key, but I want to come back on something on that.
Yeah.
Local culverts. So that's participation with the township. A lot of culverts you don't know until you get the flooding. So Fruitland Township was a prime example with Seminelli Road.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. That stinks, you know, and that's tough on the township, but that's the partnership we have to have. So they need to have the extra funding in the bank in case there's an emergency. You have two options: replace the structure or shut the road down until you get funding. No one wants to shut the road down. Let's keep it open so we can get the public going. So the unknown with that is you might be budgeting for doing just normal chip seal projects for the season. We get a big, I think Scott said it was a 1,000-year rain event.
Yeah.
It was a lot of rain.
Oh, trust me,
ridiculous.
my basement remembers.
I'm sure, and you and a lot of other people. Yeah. So with that event, the township went with, we're going to chip seal and do this. And then all of a sudden this happens, and we just created a $300,000 project like that. You don't know.
Yeah.
It just comes out thin air. Every year is different. You might have a bridge failure, right? What scares me is the stuff like Maple Island Bridge. You know how expensive that'd be to repair? You got to come up with the funding, and you got a 20-mile detour. People don't think about that.
Yeah.
That's major.
Yeah.
I think about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's truly amazing. And I hope folks that are listening to this really understand and appreciate that it's more than just the orange trucks driving around. It's more than the barriers that you got to drive around on road construction. There is a lot happening, before, during, and what I find truly amazing is the ability and the wherewithal to be able to move or pivot on a moment's notice. Because again, I mean, stuff happens, and if it's affecting the roads or in some fashion the waterways that are connected to the roads, you guys are on top of it.
We have to be. What? I don't have a choice.
Right.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I love problem solving. I don't like when a mysterious bridge or something collapses and we have to redo it. But be able to come up with a project, execute it, come up with the total project in a good, costly manner and getting it done, that's awesome. And then watching my crews do it, that's even better. It's like Dad and his little pups or something. I don't know. It's just so awesome watching them. They do it. And with that, like, we're a giant family at the Road Commission. I've been there 13 years. I've got people that started right after me, and just watching them grow. It is so awesome being able to work with people like that. I remember when you first started and you were getting stuck in the subdivisions and the cul-de-sacs and you were asking for help, and now you're doing them and not asking and you're helping other people. I'm like, we got there.
Yeah.
It's so awesome working with a crew like that.
So I want to finish with what's the biggest challenge you think that the Road Commission faces that you've either experienced or that you see on a regular basis?
The biggest challenge we have is the local share funding for projects. You can run ratings on our primary system. It's great. They're all good. The local system, we're getting better, but the state doesn't push money to the townships to assist them. And then it stinks. You get like a Holton Township, they don't have a lot of residents. They're stuck. What are they going to do? Those are the townships that need help. They need the funding. They need the money to do these projects. When you get into like a Fruitport, Muskegon Township, Fruitland, they have more money in their pocket to do this stuff. That's the biggest frustration, is seeing these roads fall apart, and I know how to fix them, and I know what it's going to cost, but I can't do it. Culverts, bridges, any of that. You don't see it vanish. We keep maintaining it at the lowest, easiest cost we are allowed to provide to that road. And that's frustrating for my crews too, is, man, I just want to do this and you can't.
So I think the key to that is for residents that are maybe feeling that pinch a little bit. We do elect legislative leaders in Lansing for a reason, and clearly it's a funding stream issue, and needing to open that funnel up just a little bit wider for the locals. Because again, it's not that you can't. It's that we need at least some funding match in order to not have your budget just explode. And so, again, for folks that are listening, and maybe in some of those affected areas or people that you talk to, that's why you talk to your local elected officials.
Absolutely.
And get them to push, because if it's happening in Muskegon County, it's happening across the state.
We're not alone. No.
So, I mean, it is. That's a nice way to put it, and a nice reminder that when you complain about the road you're driving on, it's not the road commission's fault. It's not necessarily your local governing board's fault, unless they're not making that a priority. But we need to get the state to kind of send some money so those projects can get done.
Yeah, and it's perfectly spelled out. As if I could do it, I would.
Yeah.
Trust me, I take ownership of these roads just as much as anyone else, and it upsets me too when I can't get some projects done. But the projects we have gotten done in the past several years, I'm super impressed. A lot of townships have stepped up. We've made a lot of progress.
So this is typical lawyer me. I said last question, but I have one more.
I'll take it.
Advice for citizens. They see an issue on their roadway. What advice would you give them in order to start sort of the process of bringing recognition to that?
Absolutely. What we call, there's a service request and there's a project request. Service request is you see a pothole on the road, a tree leaning over the road, a sign broken, any of that stuff. That's routine. You call our main switchboard off the office on Apple Avenue. Service request will be generated, and it'll go to that certain area, and we'll take care of it in a timely manner when available, obviously. If you and your neighbors are looking at a road going, man, this really needs something. This isn't a pothole fix. This is road reconstruction. It has to start at the township level. When you... let's think of a road. Say Fenner Road. We'll use that as an example.
Sure.
It's right around here, your neck of the woods.
Yes.
You're familiar with the area.
I'm familiar with Fenner Road.
Fenner Road. And I haven't been out there lately, but for example, say it's got potholes and stuff in it. The residents aren't happy with it. Let's talk to the township. It has to start at that level. If the township thinks they have enough funding and can get this project going, they then reach out to the road commission, my managing director. He says, you know what, sounds like a good idea. We'll provide an estimate. At that point, we provide an estimate. I give it to the director. He'll give that to the township, and then we agree upon a contract to do the project. I don't know how the township's getting their money. That's not my responsibility through Act 51. Whether they assess the residents and take it through their tax roll, where they pull out of their own general funds, that's for them to decipher. But that process for rebuilding a local road has to start at the township level. So go to your board meeting, talk to your township official, do a petition, whatever your certain township requires for that to start. I love doing projects. I hate winter. So the more projects we can do, my crews love doing it. I like being outside. I love watching roads be rebuilt. I used to love winter, but I think my beard got super gray. I was already balding when I started, so I can't blame it on that. But retirement's going to be down south probably.
Smart move.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great advice. Again, I mean, obviously, it's important to engage whether it's your city commission, township board, whatever your governing body is for the municipality that you live in. If you've got a road issue, either start it yourself, gather the more voices, the better. I've always said. You speak louder with more voices than one, and get the process going, and hopefully the money's there. Excellent. Well, Drew, thank you. This has been
It was fun.
This has been fantastic for me, even a learning experience. And I appreciate everything. Certainly you do, but the folks that are out there, like you said, driving the trucks on a day in day out basis, they do an awesome job. And my advice to folks listening to this: next time you see an orange truck, give them a wave.
Give them this one finger.
Give them the thumbs up, not the other one, because they probably have been working for about 10 or 12 hours, and they don't probably get enough thanks. So thanks to them and their hard work.
Yeah, you got to think. They're plowing snow all day. Guess what they do when they go home? Go plow their driveway.
Right.
That sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, again, Drew, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you yet again for listening to Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. My name is DJ Hilson, your host, and I look forward to continuing this adventure as we get to know more about what makes the municipalities here in Muskegon County work behind the curtain. Thank you to our sponsors, and as always, thank you to the ingenuity and inventiveness, if that's a word, of Mike Vogus.